Operation Wonder Weapon, Book 1, Chapter 8. Creeping metal. Time blurred. The weeks bled together. Training at dawn, marches at dusk. Raids that gained nothing but casualties. The Gustav line held. Every farmhouse, every hill, every culvert they cracked open was taken back by nightfall by the Germans. John adapted. His movements grew sharper, faster. The Rangers stopped treating him like an experiment and started treating him like a brother. But the looks in their eyes told him what they didn't say aloud. One man, even a wooden one, wasn't enough to topple a wall stretching across Italy. Letters from his old squad found him in Naples between raids. Ray's scribbled jokes, Nick's doodles in the margins, Larry's terse reassurances. Alive, all three of them. John read the pages until they tore at the folds. Relief warred with longing. He'd traded their laughter for black armor and elite killers. On the line, frustration seethed. Villages reduced to rubble, ancient olive groves blasted to ash. He walked past church bells melted into slag, children's shoes in the mud. His jaw locked until it hurt.
Idiot Nazis.
He muttered under his breath, and no one corrected him. The next raid was a blur of stone and smoke. A German squad crumbled under his assault. Boys, most of them, fresh conscripts with down still on their cheeks. Not much younger than Ray. He caught one by the collar, hurled him aside, another into the wall, hard enough to hear ribs snap. His fists drove too fast, too hard. By the time the Rangers ordered him back, the fight was already over. But John wasn't finished. He felt like he was full of fire, his vision narrowed, heartwood burning. He had one soldier by the collar, a boy no older than 17. John slammed him against the wall once, twice, the stone cracking with each impact. His other fist rose, hammering again and again.
Captain!
Callahan's voice cut sharp. Two Rangers grabbed his arms, another his shoulder. John roared, twisting, dragging them with him as though they were children clinging to a giant. The boy slipped from his grip, crumpled to the floor, but John's fists still drove into the air, clawing for something else to strike.
Stand down! Stand down!
Weiss barked, straining against John's other arm. John's entire frame rattled, his mask fogging within from his exertion. The suit creaked under the torque of his straining limbs. For a moment, it felt like the whole room shook with his rage. At last, surrounded, restrained, the fire in him flickered low enough for control to slip back in. He let out a shuddering exhale. His knees buckled slightly, and he allowed them to force him down onto a crate. The room was silent, except for their panting. Outside, the battle was moving away. John pulled off his gloves with shaking fingers. He could feel something was wrong. His fingers were hot. Wood didn't get warm on its own. His hands caught the light. Seams of dull metal laced the wood grain, gleaming at the knuckles, sharp at the edges, like forged joints. He flexed them once, trembling. The Rangers caught it too. Callahan's eyes narrowed. Weiss muttered under his breath. John shoved the gloves back on. His voice came hoarse through the mask.
I'm fine.
But no one believed it, least of all himself. Nobody spoke at first. Then Weiss wiped a hand down his face, muttering,
Don't sweat it, Cap. We've all had our bad days.
Callahan gave a short, bitter laugh.
Yeah, My first winter at Anzio, I emptied a Thompson into a wall.
One of the younger rangers leaned against the doorway, still catching his breath.
I once bayoneted a sandbag, thought it was moving.
A rough chuckle rolled through the room, low and tired. It wasn't mockery, it was recognition. Harlan's voice was quiet, steady.
We all crack, Zimmerman. Question is how fast you come back.
He studied John's gloves, the way he clenched them tight.
You pulled it in. That's what matters.
John swallowed, nodded once, but he didn't look at his hands again. They were trying to be compassionate, but he could see the fear in their faces. He'd scared them. The farmhouse was quiet that night. The rangers slept in corners and alcoves, boots still on, weapons close. A lantern guttered low, shadows twitching across the cracked plaster. John lay still, helmet off, eyes closed. Letting people see him sleep seemed to put them at ease. It normalized him. The ranger's snores settled into a steady chorus. Only then did he move. He slipped outside into the yard, the stones still damp from evening rain. The sentry was a ways off. The night was cold and still. Only the distant thunder of guns rolled across the valley. With slow hands, he pulled off his gloves. Moonlight bared the truth. The grain of pine had given way to veins of iron gleaming at his knuckles, threading along his palms. When he flexed, the joints sheared. Not the warm creak of wood, but a smooth metallic rub like scissors. His chest tightened. He rubbed at the veins as if he could smooth them back into grain, whispering under his breath.
No, no, no.
But the steel didn't yield. He thought of the boy he'd hurled against the wall, his face blurred with blood. Young boys who stood no chance against him, yet they came in floods. No amount of death seemed to stem the flow. He clenched his fists, metal clicking faintly against itself. He reached into his pocket and found the brass button the fairy godmother had given him. He studied it in the dim light, thumb brushing over the face. He wanted to use it, but a quieter thought rose beneath the pain. If I were strong enough, I wouldn't need this. The suit wasn't the problem. The suit was only doing what it was given. I'm the fault, he thought. He pushed the button back into his pocket.
Hold together,
He muttered. A soldier's voice drifted from the farmhouse, drowsy and indistinct. John froze until the snoring resumed. He pulled the gauntlets back on, tugged them tight. When he returned inside, he lay down on the cold stone floor. The rangers slept soundly around him, but John stared into the dark, listening to a new sound in his body, the faint groan of steel beneath layers of wood. Red Cross Letter. The truck rattled into Naples at dusk, its canvas flaps snapping in the sea breeze. The rangers sat grim and dusty in the back, helmets low, boots knocking against the floorboards. They had spent 2 days babysitting a shackled prisoner, a gray-faced German officer who spoke perfect Italian and broken English. He had whispered once about Circe before Weiss silenced him. Now, the convoy ground to a halt in the courtyard of the old barracks HQ. Floodlights cut harsh shadows across the cracked plaster walls. Officers and clerks hurried past with armloads of papers, too busy to spare a glance. The prisoner was yanked out and marched away under guard. Callahan muttered,
All this way to deliver Jerry mail. Could have tied him to a donkey.
Weiss spat.
At least the donkey wouldn't have talked back.
John muttered.
I've seen donkeys talk.
They laughed, tired and thin. They thought he was joking. Nearby was a cluster of soldiers being escorted by military police. They looked like they'd been attacked by dogs.
What happened to those guys?
Weiss muttered.
Infighting, clawing at each other, insubordination.
The policeman replied.
Clawing.
Weiss scowled as the wounded men walked past. The bleeding men looked wild-eyed and feral. Their inspection was interrupted.
Captain Zimmerman?
The voice came from a clerk, a young man with a cap too large for his head. He held an envelope in both hands as if it might break. His face was pale. Every ranger in the yard fell silent. Boots scuffed. Even the prisoner guard detail paused before moving on. Everyone knew what a Red Cross letter meant. John stepped forward slowly. The clerk turned pale at the imposing figure in armor. He extended the envelope as though it burned.
From Washington, through Red Cross channels. Sir, I'm sorry.
John took it with hands suddenly heavy. The rangers stared, but none spoke. Even Callahan, ever quick with a joke, shut his mouth.
I'll be inside.
John muttered, voice rough behind the visor. He strode through the doors into a side office. The rangers hovered at the threshold until Callahan jerked his head, giving him privacy. The door closed. The office felt too quiet. John pulled off his helmet, set his gloves on the desk. This possibility had always hung over him, that he would get a letter about Joseph. When his oldest had joined the Navy, he'd never stopped worrying. And now, here it was. He broke the envelope with stiff fingers. He read once, then again, the words blurring. Helen Zimmerman, fatal accident, aircraft factory, condolences. He recoiled like he'd taken a bullet to the face. The page trembled in his hands. His strength fled him harder than when magic was siphoned out of him.
Not her. She was safe. How could it be her?
His vision blurred, tears spilled, his chest shuddered. He pressed his fist against it as if to keep the grief from splitting him apart. A sound escaped, low and broken, the cry of a father. No one knocked. The rangers waited outside in silence, their shadows shifting under the hall lamp. They didn't need to see. They knew. Inside, John folded the letter carefully, laid it on the desk. His wooden hand lingered on it, trembling.
Not her.
He whispered hoarsely.
Not my girl.
The sound of guns drifted faintly from the front, but in that office, the world had gone utterly still. The door creaked open. Callahan stood there, helmet in hand, expression unreadable. Behind him, the others lingered in the hall, their eyes downcast. Time to go. The truck rattled out of Naples under blackout, its canvas snapping in the night air. The rangers sat wordless on the benches, rifles across their knees. John sat at the rear, helmet low, shoulders bowed. He hadn't spoken since the office. The Black Knight's shell gave nothing away, but his posture told the truth. Gut-punched. The only evidence that something was wrong was the tears landing on his suit from under the helmet, the faint tremble of his chest as he suppressed sobs. No one asked. In war, silence was sometimes the only mercy. Hours later, they bivouacked in the ruins of a bombed farmhouse. A lantern hung from a beam, throwing light across a makeshift table where they stripped and cleaned their rifles. John worked automatically, sliding bolts free, wiping carbon from steel. He had his gauntlets and helmet off. His painted eyes were faintly pink. His wood didn't swell like eyelids would, but a few painted lines appeared beneath his eyes to suggest the haggardness within. Without thinking, he rolled his sleeves back to keep them clean. Lantern light caught on something that wasn't wood. A vein of metal ran along his forearm, merging uncannily back into grain. The scraping of brushes slowed. Weiss stared openly. Callahan froze mid-motion.
It's spreading.
Callahan said at last, his voice low, even. John's hand closed over the vein, the rag clutched in his fist. His face twitched.
You need it looked at
Weiss said, carefully.
before it gets worse.
John's breath rasped.
No.
The word hung like a shot. Callahan set down his brush.
That isn't an option, Captain.
John's fist struck the table, not hard, but final.
I said no.
His voice cracked, ragged with exhaustion.
I've been stripped, mocked, measured, poked like a piece of hardware. I've taken more bullets than I can count, stared at everywhere I go. I can't do it. Not.
He stopped, breath sucking hard. His wooden hand covered his eyes.
Not after today.
Silence closed in, the lantern flickering between them. Callahan finally set his rifle aside.
All right?
He gave a short nod.
Not today. Postpone, Ben.
His voice softened.
You don't have to carry this alone, Captain.
John didn't answer. His head bobbed at the tremor in his chest, teeth grinding. Then he lowered his head further, hands working the rag as though the act alone might hold him together. One by one, the Rangers returned to their weapons. The scrape of steel and brush filled the void where words would not. Only John could hear the faint crackling inside him. Metal and wood competing for him. Feral. Across Italy, the rain hadn't let up in 3 days. Mud-caked boots and trousers, and every truck wheel sank axle deep before the engineers could pry it free. The camp wilted in wet gray and brown. Ray wiped his hands on a rag, glancing up as 2 privates across the worksite broke into a shouting match over a can of coffee grounds. The shouts turned to blows almost immediately, fists hammering, mud spraying as men tried to drag them apart. Neither would let go, faces twisted, eyes wild like cornered animals.
8th fight this week.
Larry muttered, crouched over a stubborn generator part, flathead in hand. His voice carried the weary edge of a man too tired to be surprised anymore. Nick leaned against a post, cigarette burning low between his lips, eyes narrowed. He took a long drag, exhaled a sharp plume, then cursed under his breath when the stub burned his fingers. He lit another immediately.
Gonna turn your lungs to charcoal, pal.
Ray said, forcing a weak grin.
Better charcoal than this mud.
Nick muttered. He struck the match hard, jaw clenched. Nearby, 2 more soldiers bickered over rations. Chocolate squares were being traded like gold, and the pile of discarded cigarette butts beside the mess tent grew higher every day. Ray sat down on an overturned crate, pulling out the battered notebook he saved for letters. The pencil hovered before he pressed it to paper.
John, you've stopped writing. I hope it's just the fighting, the marching, the lack of paper, but I can't help worrying. You've sounded so swell. You sounded happy. Things here are strange. More than just the grind. The men, something's off. They snap quicker, fight harder, like the war's under their skin now. Even the quiet ones bare their teeth at nothing. It's not just fatigue, it's like something's gotten into them, like beasts. I don't know what else to call it.
He paused, watching as Nick struck another match, hands shaking, his boot tapping an uneven rhythm in the mud.
Nick smokes like the world's ending tomorrow. Larry works till his fingers bleed just so he doesn't have to look at anyone. The rest? They scrap over coffee grounds, chocolate bars, a corner by the stove. It's not right. I can't explain it, but it scares me. Makes me miss your steady head even more.
He looked out across the muddy camp, where the 2 privates were still being held apart by 3 men apiece, their teeth bared like dogs straining on a leash.
I don't know when we'll see you again. I just hope it's soon. Keep your head, John. The rest of us are losing ours.
Ray signed his name, folded the paper carefully, and tucked it into an envelope. Outside the tent, another argument had already started, this time over cigarettes. Ray sealed the letter with a heavy hand, muttering under his breath,
Come back to us, Cat, before we all go mad.
Deeds. The seeing mirror clouded, then sharpened into the grainy vision of an Allied encampment. Rows of canvas tents, soldiers brawling in the mud, teeth bared, their comrades hauling them apart. Another clutched a tin of coffee grounds like treasure, snarling at anyone who drew near. The officers in the intelligence chamber in Wewelsborg leaned closer, murmurs of approval rising.
See how it spreads?
One SS general said.
They fall upon each other like dogs.
Ryder sat at a table, busy drawing as if the chatter was old news. His pale eyes reflected the mirror's glow.
Aggression, irritability, the need for constant stimulation. The admixture is taking hold.
He spoke softly, yet the clerks near him leaned in, compelled.
It gnaws at the human restraint, amplifies hunger, lust, rage. In time, they will tear themselves apart before we fire a shot.
Himmler spoke with the certainty of a man unused to interruption.
With this alliance, Frau Maleficent, Germany stands invincible. The Allies may build their bombs, but they can't match what we shall unleash. A new age of power, an empire without rival.
Maleficent reclined in the high-backed chair, chin propped delicately on her hand. She looked regal, composed, but her eyes did not follow Himmler's gesturing hand. Instead, they lingered on Ryder. He bent over a drafting table in the corner, pencil scratching across vellum, his charts and notes sprawled like veins. Resonance fields, thermic interference, the skeletal lines of a radio tower. He did not look at her, but every so often his pen paused, as though sensing her gaze. Himmler's voice droned on.
You curse, we command. You conjure, we conquer. You will find the Reich most grateful.
Her lips curved faintly, not quite a smile, not quite mockery.
How very generous.
She leaned back, eyes glinting green as they drifted once more toward Ryder's meticulous hand. Himmler's promises were smoke. Ryder's diagrams were bones. Ryder capped his pen, set it neatly aside, and finally raised his gaze.
Then, we require her voice recorded, layered into the English broadcasts, and have the apparatus prepared.
Maleficent's eyes gleamed.
At last, someone who speaks of deeds, not destiny.
Himmler stood stiff, his gloved hands clasped behind his back. He said nothing, but the muscle in his jaw pulsed as the sorceress and the scientist spoke over him. Examination. The examination tent in Italy reeked of iodine and boiled bandages. Canvas walls filtered the light into a dull yellow, casting everything in a sickly pallor. John sat on the edge of the cot, his armor and field gear folded neatly on a chair beside him. Without them, he felt vulnerable. His torso gleamed under the lantern glow, smooth, pale wood, now shot through with cruel veins of dull metal, half-formed steel plates creeping like frost across his chest. Dr. Kessler circled him slowly, stethoscope hanging useless around his neck, his pen scratched on a clipboard.
Captain Zimmerman,
He began in clipped, precise tones.
Your superior's report concerns me. Increased aggression, social withdrawal, and
He tapped his pen.
greater brutality in combat. Not just subduing and disabling, but pulverizing.
John's painted eyes stayed on the floor. His wooden jaw tightened.
That's what the field requires, isn't it?
Kessler's brow furrowed.
The field requires effectiveness, but there is a line between decisive force and bloodlust. The question is, do you still know where that line is?
John's chest creaked faintly as he drew a breath. He wanted to say yes. Instead, he muttered,
Less than I'd like.
Kessler studied him a moment, then set the clipboard aside. His tone softened.
What do you think is happening to you?
John's fist grated. He forced it open. His voice broke.
I'm a magical being. Internal things tend to manifest physically for me. I think the suit is amplifying it.
Kessler shifted his weight.
What internal things?
I'm grieving. Helen, my girl. She was supposed to be safe.
His chin trembled. His eyes filled. He sat rigid as a statue.
And these Germans, this whole mess. I feel I can kill him children. But if I don't, they just keep coming and drowning us all.
He looked down again.
I know what's required of me to regain my humanity, mercy, forgiveness, justice. I was taught that my whole life. But here,
He shook his head.
it feels like fairy tales. Impossible.
His eyes flicked sideways toward the armor on the chair. Tucked inside its lining were folded letters. Ray's rough scrawl, Margaret's hand, children's doodles, his anchors, carried close but hidden. Kessler noticed.
You keep something in there?
John hesitated. At last he admitted.
Letters? The boys, my family. They remind me I'm not just this.
He gestured at the wood and metal body. Kessler nodded slowly, as if something had clicked.
Then you need them, Captain, not just words on a page. Remember the people you fight for. Hold to that with everything you have. You're not killing for hate. You're holding back the tide of war from those you love.
John's mouth pressed into a hard line. Silence. But his silence wasn't denial. It was longing. Kessler closed the file crisply.
I can rotate you early, let you rest, get back in touch with yourself.
The thought of letting the Rangers, mortal men, continue on without him made him feel ashamed. Was quitting early weakness, proof he wasn't strong enough to master the powers of the suit?
No, I can hang on until rotation.
Kessler nodded slowly, lips pursed in scrutiny.
Very well, but don't let this get the better of you. You're no good to us if this gets out of control, whatever this is.
Kessler closed the file and dismissed John. John stood and began putting on his uniform, his head lowered in shame. He felt like he had failed the test. If he had, he would never be human again. Despair flooded him. A thin vein of metal crept higher up his neck. John pushed through the doorway into the farmhouse where the Rangers were quartered. He wore only his plain olive uniform, helmet in his arms, but not on his head. For once, he didn't care if other soldiers saw. Better he and they get used to his wooden face. Conversations faltered. A couple of Rangers straightened sharply. Callahan barked.
Zimmerman, where's your cover? You're still under orders.
John ignored it. His arms were full, cradling the blackened armor and helmet of the suit, its weight like a corpse. He set it down with a thud against the oak table. The men gathered, drawn by the sight of it. Their eyes shone, half awe, half envy. John ran a wooden hand over the scarred plating.
I'm not the right man for this,
he said evenly.
It's not improving my effectiveness. It's impairing my judgment. One of you could put it to better use.
For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, Lieutenant Weiss finally stepped forward, knuckles grazing the helmet, almost longing. He paused, staring at the carved lines of John's face, then pulled his hand back.
Doesn't work like that, Captain.
He muttered.
That's yours. Custom made.
He shook his head.
This isn't a rifle you can pass down the line. It fits you. Only you.
You think I want it?
John snapped, bitterness sharp in his wooden mouth.
You think I don't hear myself when I'm out there? The way I fight? What I do to them? It's not restraint anymore, it's rage.
The men shifted uneasily. No one reached for the armor. One by one, their eyes slid away from it, not out of disinterest, but something closer to reverence. Finally, Callahan spoke again.
We don't touch another man's mantle. And this one's forged for you, Zimmerman, for better or worse.
John's painted eyes dropped to the floor. His chest creaked as he slumped. Nobody argued. When he finally picked the suit back up, the edges of the plates clunked against his wooden palms. He saw his fingers on one hand harden and facet into mechanical metal digits. He clutched it tighter, despair spreading under the surface like rot. War Machine. A few days later, the Rangers were pinned in the orchard, and this time it wasn't rifles tearing them apart. The low growl of an engine rolled over the mud. Then a shape emerged through smoke and shattered trees. A panzer, gun glinting in the firelight, treads grinding through the earth. Machine gun tracers laced out from its hull, cutting down 2 men before they could even dive for cover.
Tank!
Lieutenant Weiss bellowed.
We've got nothing for it!
The bazooka team was already dead. The artillery was silent. The Rangers were ants under a boot, scrambling, slipping in the mud as the beast drew closer. One more shell and the stone wall would be gone. John slammed another clip into his rifle, hands shaking. He fired useless sparks against the steel hide. A captain went down screaming, cut nearly in half by the coaxial gun. The panzer kept rolling. Hopelessness clawed at his chest, the same choking helplessness he had felt on the Piave, clutching at a man slipping to his death. Too weak then, too weak now. Unless... His painted eyes darted down at his chest. His heartwood groaned, a deep ache. He knew what waited if he let go. The metal pressing always at the edges, creeping, waiting for permission. He needed to be more. The puppet was too weak.
No.
He whispered to himself.
If I give in...
He felt darkness in the metal. But another shell cracked against the wall, showering him with stone. Men screamed, scattering. The panzer's turret rotated, toward them, toward his men.
Smoke in the sky, iron flame, voices are calling out my name. Hold the line, don't let it break. How much strain can one form take? I gave my strength, I gave my hands. Still I splinter where I stand. Flesh or wood, it's never enough. Every victory turns to dust. Not a man, not enough. Great and bold, cracked and rough. Break me down, make me more. This war is for. I walk through fire, I outlived all. Heard every distant dying call. Still I stand while others fall. Wooden frame that bears it all. Every breath I should not take. Count the lives it cost to break. If I'm a thing, then let me kneel. Turn this puppet into steel. Not a man, not enough. Far from guilt, built from loss. Take the heart, take the name. Leave behind the weaker frame. Not a man, not enough. Flesh is gone, burn the rest. Make me strong, make me more. I am what this war is for.
He let go. The groan split into a shriek. His chest tore open and he cried out in agony, heartwood cracking like a felled tree under load. Metal surged forward, sliding into place with mechanical inevitability. Plates locked across his sides. Bolts drove into his shoulders. Gears ratcheted into joints. Red light blazing from behind the tinted visor. The metal swallowed what had been wood, sealing it away beneath steel. His helmet clamped down like a carapace. The suit and armor readjusted to the new form, tightening, locking, remembering their shape. John rose taller, broader.
No more doubt, no more pain, only iron, only flame. In the silence something wakes, and the earth begins to shake. I am iron, I am steel, every enemy will kneel. Let the world break on me, I feel nothing, I am free. No more mercy, no more mercy, no more plea, no more plea. You are nothing, you are nothing, you are me. Victory or death, I am the
The Panzer fired. The shell slammed his back, burst into sparks, smoke curling. He staggered, but did not fall. He turned, visor leveling on its target. He broke into a sprint, bullets shredded around him. He slammed his hands onto the tank's glacis, boots digging into the earth. With a guttural roar, more metallic than human, he heaved, metal groaned, treads spun uselessly, digging ruts. Then, impossibly, the machine lifted. The Rangers gaped as John flipped the Panzer onto its side. The crew inside scrambled, shrieking. Striding around the overturned beast, John ripped open the hatch with one hand, dragged the gunner out, and hurled him into the trees. Another pointed a pistol. John crushed it, and the man's hand with it. The battlefield froze around the site. Germans fell back, terror rising in their shouts. The Rangers, too, only stared. Captain Callahan finally found his voice.
Forward! Push them while they're running!
The Rangers surged as far as the ridge, rifles barking until the trench was theirs. Then the shouting slowed. The enemy retreated, men dropping to their knees in the churned mud, sucking air, fumbling to reload.
Hold here! Consolidate! Form up!
Callahan barked, his voice ragged. Runners dashed to check the wounded, to count the dead. But John did not stop. Through smoke and cries, he advanced, steady as an iron clock. Enemy stragglers bolted before him. One fired wildly until John backhanded the man, sending him into the wreck of a gun pit. Another raised his hands in surrender, and John brushed past without even looking, boots carrying him farther into the fog.
Zimmerman! Captain! Halt!
Callahan cupped his hands to shout, but John gave no sign he heard. The men watched, panting, as his black-clad frame briskly marched on, shoulders squared, red visor gleaming, a relentless silhouette swallowed by drifting smoke. He went until there were no more enemies in sight, and then he stopped. He froze, boots planted, head slowly turning to scan the empty haze ahead. The Rangers caught up in straggling groups, staring at him with something close to dread. He stood like a gargoyle, silent, unmoving, chest faintly ticking like machinery cooling down. The Rangers formed a shaky perimeter along the ridge, lanterns and flashlights cutting cones into the drifting haze. Medics crouched over the wounded, sergeants barked for ammunition counts. Runners scrambled back to report. But the attention of every man kept sliding back to the figure standing just beyond the perimeter.
Captain Zimmerman!
Callahan stepped forward, voice cracking like a whip.
Regroup with your men! That's an order!
No movement. The captain swallowed, steadied himself, and barked again.
Captain! Fall back now!
With a pause bordering contempt, boots thudded into the mud with unnatural weight. He returned at his own leisure. When he stopped inside the line, close enough for their lanterns to catch the sheen of his armor, the men shifted uneasily. In the half-light, something in the way he stood made their stomachs knot.
What is he?
Callahan turned sharply.
Shut it.
But his voice lacked force. They all knew. Whatever had marched into the smoke and torn the enemy apart was no longer John Zimmerman.
Get him inside the church,
Callahan ordered finally. His voice carried the brittle edge of fear, but it was still an order.
out of the dark, away from the men.
Dalton and Hayes moved cautiously, gesturing like they might hurt a bull. John followed without protest, boots echoing hollowly against the stone as they led him into the ruined nave where lanterns burned brighter. They stopped near the altar, the ragged roof open to the night sky. Lantern light fell over John's armor, making the seams glint like scars.
Captain Zimmerman!
Captain Callahan squared his shoulders, steadying himself.
Remove your helmet!
For a long moment, John didn't move. Then his hands rose slowly, unfastening the chin strap with deliberate precision. The visor came free with a hiss. The helmet lowered. Gasps broke across the small circle. The face revealed was not the determined and steel-painted face they knew. It was literally steel now. Metal contours made his features harsh and severe. The eyes glowed from within sockets, a deep, steady red, and yet they blinked. Alive, aware, and utterly unsympathetic. His hair was replaced by seamed and interlocking plates that formed a cranium.
Good gravy,
Weiss whispered. Callahan found his voice.
John, can you hear me?
The red eyes shifted to him. For an instant, there was recognition, and then it hardened into something colder.
I hear you,
John said flatly. His voice was deep, steady, but without warmth.
I hear all of you. Breathing loud, hands shaking, hearts pounding like frightened animals.
His eyes flicked across the group.
You reek of fear.
One sergeant bristled.
We just watched you tip a panzer like a toy. What do you expect?
John's gaze fixed on him, unwavering.
I expect soldiers, not quivering boys.
His words cut like a blowtorch. Weiss swallowed, stepping closer.
John, this isn't you.
This is me.
John interrupted, low and sharp.
The part you wanted.
The silence deepened, oppressive. Weiss tried again, almost pleading.
And what's that?
John's jaw tightened, his eyes burning brighter.
A soldier that can bring victory at whatever it costs.
He stood there, red eyes sweeping them with visible contempt. It was John, bitter, cold, and unashamed of what he had become. Callahan knew he had to do something. The field phone sat on a crate near the church wall, its battered handset coiled with fraying wire. Callahan strode and crouched over it, glancing once toward the altar. John still stood there, helmet tucked under his arm, red eyes burning faintly in the dark, silent, watching. Callahan swallowed and grabbed the handset. He gave the crank a sharp twist. The phone buzzed, faint clicks popping in his ear before a tired operator's voice answered.
Signal Corps, this is Switchboard 3. State your unit.
Able Rangers, forward platoon. Urgent traffic. Patch me through the Division HQ.
Copy. Stand by.
Minutes dragged. Callahan's hand trembled on the receiver, eyes flicking back again to John. Motionless, unreadable. Then a click, a new voice, brisk and clipped.
Division operations! Colonel Harding! Make it quick, Captain!
Callahan took a breath.
Sir, we've held the ridge, but at cost. Casualties are severe. We survived only because of Captain Zimmerman. But I must report, he's been altered. There is something wrong with him. He doesn't respond to orders. He doesn't stop fighting. He flipped a panzerchank with his bare hands. Sir, he's dangerous. We're concerned he may be a threat to his men.
A pause. Then Harding's tone sharpened.
You're telling me one officer routed armor and infantry single-handedly?
Callahan gritted his teeth.
Yes, but...
Incredible!
Harding cut him off.
Exactly the kind of courage and strength we need right now. Eisenhower will want to hear of this. If only we could field a battalion like him.
Callahan squeezed his eyes shut.
Sir, you're not listening. He's not himself. He's scary as heck. The men are shaken to their core. If we keep him on the line without medical evaluation, we risk...
Evaluation? We don't need a doctor, Captain. We need results. Zimmerman has delivered them. Keep him moving forward.
Weiss's voice cracked, almost pleading.
Sir, with respect, we are in danger.
Danger is irrelevant.
Harding snapped.
Victory is not. That's an order. Hold the ridge. Zimmerman stays in the fight.
The line went dead. Callahan lowered the handset slowly, his fingers stiff. Around him, Rangers hovered, waiting for word. He forced himself to meet their eyes.
Command wants him back in action.
A ripple of unease passed through the group. From the altar, John shifted. His helmet clinked softly as he settled it back over his head. The piercing red glow diffused behind the visor. He had not spoken a word during Callahan's report, but the way he turned his head, slowly, deliberately, told them he'd understood perfectly. He knew command approved, and he was ready to deliver. The archive office in Wewelsburg stank of mildew and ink. Towers of requests leaned like drunk soldiers, stamped and forgotten in dusty piles. A junior SS adjutant pawed through them until one caught his eye. Dog-eared, the ink already fading. Filed, 6 weeks prior, alleged Allied enhanced soldier observed on the Italian front. Request confirmation. He frowned, muttered,
6 weeks and ich been sitting here?
Then he tucked it into his clipboard and marched down the corridor. The chamber of mirrors was half lit, lanterns glinting off iron and stone. At its heart loomed the vast black glass of the evil queen's mirror. Beside it, the beasts. Its silvered surface shimmered faintly, ready to show. The adjutant cleared his throat, offering the folder.
Stubbenfear, another request. It's been into you for some time. Reports from Italy of, well, this.
The duty officer rolled his eyes.
Another rumor. They say heroes every time they lose ground.
He waved the adjutant forward.
Ask it.
The junior officer stepped closer, heart pounding, and spoke clearly.
Meow meow upon the wall. Is there truth to this report of an American soldier with strength beyond human limits?
The black glass rippled. The mask face emerged, featureless and cold, its voice rolling like stone down a crypt.
A choice was made, the wood denied. The heart of man laid cold inside. Where mercy wanes, the metal wakes, and justice bends until it breaks. One stands now, neither flesh nor tree, but iron will, no love, no mercy. A soldier born, yet not the same. Domination burned into his frame.
The adjutant flinched, clutching the folder tighter.
Bah!
The officer scoffed, though unease crept into his tone.
Riddles.
He gestured sharply at the smaller mirror.
Show us.
The beast's hand mirror flickered alive. Smoke and chaos swirled into focus. An orchard battlefield. Rangers scrambling, shells tearing mud. Then the image sharpened. A panzer flipped on its side, crew scattering like vermin. And in the heart of it, a figure in black armor striding through smoke. Red light blazed from behind a visor. Steel shrieked as he ripped a hatch open one-handed. German infantry bolted at the sight of him. The adjutant stumbled back, face pale.
Mein Güte!
The duty officer leaned closer despite himself, transfixed.
No man could do that.
From the wall mirror, the floating mask loomed larger, tone ringing like a sentence already passed.
The weapon walks, the line undone. What you have feared has now begun.
Insubordinate. The Italian orchard was gone, burned, and razed. Ahead, the ground flattened into open killing fields, laced with wire and spotted with bunkers. Pillboxes jutted from the earth like rotten teeth, their machine guns chewing the air. Mortars boomed behind them, shells landing steadily closer. The Rangers huddled in a ditch, mud splashing as rounds kicked up dirt around them. Callahan wiped grime from his face, shouting over the racket.
We're looking at 3 pillboxes minimum, overlapping arcs, at least 2 MG42s per desk. Mines between us and then, maybe trenches past that.
Without tanks or air, we're dead men.
Weiss muttered.
We'd need artillery to crack this line, or a miracle.
John stood a few paces above them, rifle dangling in one hand, visor reflecting muzzle flashes. Bullets zipped around him, snapping the air. He barely seemed to notice. A tracer sparked against his shoulder. He reached up, brushed it off like a mosquito. Callahan swore.
Zimmerman, get down here before you lose that pretty head of yours.
John's helmet tilted slightly, visor aglow.
If bullets frighten you, perhaps you should have chosen another profession.
A couple Rangers froze at the tone. It wasn't gallows humor. It wasn't even anger. Just disdain. Weiss shook his head, jaw tight.
We can't take this without support. We pull back, wait for the big guns.
Then Weiss hissed.
And there he goes.
Heads turned. John was already walking into the open field. Not crouching, not running, just walking. Rifle slung aside like dead weight. Boots steady in the mud. Machine guns swiveled toward him, streams of tracers tearing up the earth. He didn't falter.
Great Scott!
Callahan blurted.
He's lost it!
A bunker gunner laid into him full force. Sparks cascaded off John's chest and arms, a spray of shattered lead and scraping steel. He raised a hand, almost lazy, and swatted at the incoming fire as though batting away summer flies. Then he kept going. The Rangers gaped, helpless to do anything but watch.
Sweet Mary, he's walking through it.
Callahan ground his teeth, then barked,
Don't just sit there and move! Follow him up before he takes the whole war himself.
Reluctantly, fearfully, the Rangers surged out of the ditch, chasing after the black-clad figure that marched steadily toward the bunkers. Their captain, their monster, their weapon. The first pillbox roared, its twin barrels raking the field. John didn't dive, didn't zigzag. He strode straight through the hail, sparks spitting off his chest plate, bullets whining into the mud around him. The Rangers, fanned out behind, ducked low, praying the streams didn't catch them. Callahan shouted himself hoarse.
Flank him! Use the distraction!
John reached the pillbox. The gunners inside barked frantically, slamming fresh belts into the weapon. Too late. He seized the steel firing slit with both hands. Metal shrieked as he bent it wide like tin foil. The men inside shrank back in terror as red light poured in from his visor. John shoved the muzzle of the MG aside, ripped the whole weapon from its mount, and hurled it backward into the dirt. It landed like a felled tree, nearly crushing 2 Rangers sprinting past. With one push of his shoulder, the pillbox wall buckled inward, stone cracked, concrete split. The whole nest sagged and collapsed, dust billowing as John moved on, already fixed on the next. The second bunker opened up. John didn't slow. He hefted a broken beam from the ruin, spun once, and hurled it with uncanny force. The timber speared the firing slit, snapping the gun barrel sideways. The gunners scrambled. One stumbled out the side hatch only to be backhanded aside, rolling harmlessly into the mud.
Holy smokes!
One ranger whispered as he ran past, wide-eyed.
He's tearing them down!
The third pillbox cracked like the others, John wrenching stone from stone until its defenders fled. He didn't chase. He kept moving forward, shoulders squared, like nothing could matter but the next wall, the next obstacle. The Germans broke. Rangers fired and advanced in his wake, driving the rout, but their eyes kept sliding back to him. John never looked over his shoulder, never checked if they followed. He just kept advancing, unstoppable, the red glow of his visor cutting through the drifting haze. The ridge was theirs. German helmets littered the trench, rifles abandoned mid-firing. The air stank of cordite and dust. Rangers slumped against the walls, some retching, some just staring at their trembling hands. John stood apart, steam rising faintly from his armor, visor still faintly glowing red. Callahan marched up, helmet askew, mud streaked down his cheek. His voice cracked with anger that barely masked fear.
Zimmerman, what in blazes was that?
John tilted his head, slow, deliberate.
Victory.
Victory!
Callahan jabbed a finger toward the wreckage.
You broke formation, ignored orders, stormed alone. You nearly crushed our men with that machine gun you tossed. You scattered us so bad we could have shot each other in the back. That's not soldiering, Captain. That's slaughter.
Other Rangers crowded in, their voices overlapping.
You left us behind.
You're supposed to move with us, not run off.
You almost flattened Sullivan. He was right behind that wall you brought down.
The list piled higher, frustration tumbling into fear. Words like insubordination and fratricide cut through the air. John listened, silent. Then, slowly, his shoulders began to shake. He laughed. Cold, humorless, a sound like metal plates grinding. The Rangers fell silent, unnerved. John finally spoke, helmet catching the glow of a lantern.
You call it reckless. I call it efficient. While you hid behind walls, I ended the fight. I didn't waste time. I didn't waste bullets. And if some of you stumbled too close...
He shrugged, utterly indifferent.
That's a you problem.
The words landed like blows. Men shifted back, not daring to speak. Callahan's jaw tightened, but his eyes betrayed something he would never admit aloud. John turned away, scanning the dark beyond the ridge as if already hunting the next target.
I have given you the ridge, and in return, gratitude.
It wasn't long before Weiss and Callahan stood over the field telephone again, mud still caked on their uniforms, voices tight with exhaustion and urgency.
Yes, sir, we broke the line. Yes, the ridge is secure. Casualties moderate. But...
He hesitated, then forced it out.
There's a problem. Yes, Captain Zimmerman.
Static crackled. A clipped voice answered from Naples HQ.
Problem? Your report says he carried the assault, turned a Panzer on its side. You tell me that's a problem?
Callahan gripped the receiver harder.
Sir, with respect, he ignored orders, broke formation, put our own men at risk. He is transformed into a metal juggernaut. He laughs at the charges, calls us weak. He's not the man we knew, he's...
Callahan swallowed.
He's evil.
On the other end, a pause. Then a new voice, colder, higher ranking.
Captain Callahan, you realize the tone of your report borders on insubordination? Zimmerman secured your sector single-handed. The brass already calling it a miracle.
Callahan bit back an answer. Around him, Rangers leaned in, listening, waiting.
I'm not saying he isn't effective,
Callahan pressed, his voice cracking with desperation.
I'm saying he's out of control. If you don't believe me, send someone. See for yourself.
Another pause, then grudgingly.
Very well. Officers will be dispatched. They'll make their own assessment.
The line clicked dead. Callahan lowered the receiver, shoulders sagging. Around him, the Rangers shifted uneasily. One finally asked,
They didn't listen, didn't they?
Callahan stared into the dark where Zimmerman stood apart, visor glinting faintly as he watched the horizon, utterly still.
They heard what they wanted,
Callahan muttered.
but they'll send someone, and when they see him, maybe then they'll believe.
Unreachable. The ruined chapel smelled of wet plaster and oil lamps. Rangers had been ordered to clear out, leaving the place bare but for one figure at the altar. John stood there, still armored, helmet on, red eyes glowing faint beneath the visor. He hadn't spoken since the orchard. He hadn't even sat down. When the door creaked open, 2 escorts brought in Major Ellison and Dr. Kessler. The men hesitated, their rifles low, as if half expecting the captain to lunge at them. Ellison coaxed them to lower the muzzles, still optimistic. John stood like he could spring suddenly, always ready, gaze locked on them.
John,
Ellison said, trying to remain familiar against the unease he felt at the dark vibe emanating from the front of the church.
how are you? I've missed you.
John's reply came as cold as ice.
How do you think I'm doing, Major?
Only then, Kessler cleared his throat.
Your commanding officers are concerned. Reports of your conduct, excessive force, failure to disengage, ignoring direct orders. This isn't restraint, Captain. This is disorder.
For a long moment, John just stared, visor gleaming. Then his mouth curved faintly, without warmth.
You call it disorder. I call it channeled chaos.
Kessler bristled.
Nothing justifies tearing through your own men. One sergeant swears you nearly crushed him in the charge. Would you have noticed if you killed him?
John's head tilted, the faintest suggestion of mockery.
He should have moved faster.
Ellison stepped forward, fists clenched at his sides.
You kept men alive because they mattered to you. You never treated them as disposable. Tell me you still believe that.
The red visor fixed on him, unreadable. Then John's voice came, flat as a hammer.
Men die, Major. The ones left standing are the ones who deserve it.
Ellison's jaw trembled.
Listen to yourself. That's not strength, John. That's apathy. If you've stopped caring about them, you're not a man anymore. You're just
For a moment, silence hummed between them. Then John actually chuckled, low, humorless.
A monster? A freak? Old news, Ellison.
Ellison flinched as if the words struck him. He tried one last time, voice raw.
You were the best man I know. You weren't just respected, John. You were loved.
John turned his head slightly.
Man?
He almost spat the word.
A bag of flesh?
Kessler shut his notebook with a snap.
That's enough.
He looked at Ellison, tone clipped.
He calls cruelty strength. He dismisses restraint as weakness. You see it too.
Ellison stood rooted, chest heaving, eyes locked on the thing that had once been his friend.
I see it.
His voice cracked. The escort shifted uneasily, eager to leave. But John stayed where he was, silent again, calculating. The field telephone hissed and popped in the little command hut. Its line stretched back through too many relay posts. Major Ellison stood stiffly with Kessler beside him. The receiver pressed hard to his ear.
Captain Callahan's report has been confirmed.
Ellison said with reluctance.
The captain is insubordinate, dangerous, and uncontrollable. We can't put a rogue element back on the line.
A pause. Then the colonel replied.
He is to be taken into custody until further notice.
Ellison's throat went dry.
Sir, with respect, do you understand what you're asking? If we try to manhandle him, men will die.
That's your problem, Major. This comes from higher. Do it quietly. If it leaks, morale collapses.
The line clicked dead. Ellison lowered the handset. Kessler's face was pale, his lips pressed tight.
"They don't realize,"
he murmured.
"They think he's still human enough."
Ellison swore under his breath.
They've no idea. If we push him, he'll snap us in half.
That evening, under the shadow of the ruined chapel, they tried. Ellison approached first, careful, palms visible.
John, command wants you pulled back, just for now. Medical evaluation. Time to rest.
His voice caught.
We'll keep it quiet.
John turned his head slightly. The red eyes glowed beneath the visor. He didn't speak. Kessler stepped in, soft but firm.
"Captain, you've exceeded even their tolerance. They want you rotated until they can decide what to do. We're here to escort you. I expect you can join us without coercion."
John's voice came, low and steady, but sharp enough to slice through bone.
You try to take me out of battle, I will kill you.
Ellison's jaw clenched. Kessler froze, blood draining from his face. The guards who had come with them instinctively backed up a step, eyes wide. They believed him. Every word. John tilted his head slightly, like a predator curious about prey.
You know I'm not bluffing.
Ellison swallowed, anger and helplessness colliding in his chest.
John, please.
But John only looked away, indifferent. Kessler's voice broke in a whisper.
"It's her, the matron, the fairy, this suit. She made this. This is her curse eating him alive."
Ellison turned sharply, the thought sinking cold into his gut. The fairy godmother. Neither man said it aloud, but both knew whatever was happening to John Zimmerman was bigger than the Rangers, bigger than command. They were woefully unequipped for this.